Welcome everybody to the last online Velocity of 2020. I want to wish you guys all a Merry Christmas. And as you can guess, we'll be talking a little bit about Christmas tonight. I want to start off by asking you an answer as you're watching at home or wherever you are. If you're watching with your family, you guys can tell each other. Answer this question: what is your favorite part of the Christmas season? There are so many things to love about this time of year. It's a very special time of the year. It seems like the whole world almost goes on pause for like a month. It's got its own music, its own branding, its own snacks, its own food, its own decorations. Christmas is a very special time of the year. If you don't believe me, watch Hallmark. One of my favorite parts of the Christmas season is spending time with my family. Specifically, I've got a few cousins who I'm really close with, and I love to just connect with them, play games, and catch up on life. But beyond that, just my entire family is amazing, and I love to spend time with them. There's a lot of different things to get excited about this Christmas season. One thing that a lot of people love to do is decorate, and one thing that most people who do that is decorate is they have a nativity set. And I want to share a picture that I found online of a nativity set that's for sale. Are you ready? Here it is. Something's missing. Something's off. If you ask me, this whole nativity set, why would anybody buy it? Sure, it's only $3, but if it doesn't have Jesus, it's kind of missing the point. Sadly, for a lot of us, we might know the reason for the season is Jesus, but if we look at our Christmases and how we celebrate them and how we spend our time, this is kind of an image of what some of us do. And the point I want to make to you guys today is that if our Christmas is missing Jesus, we've completely missed the point. I want to look at a story from Luke chapter 10 about Martha and Mary opening up their home for Jesus. Verse 38 says, "As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, 'Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me.'" Now, let's pause here and consider Martha. It says she was distracted, but let me ask, is there anything wrong with cooking? Is there anything wrong with preparing? Is there anything wrong with hosting or inviting somebody over for dinner? No. So what did she do wrong? She allowed her serving and her prep to get in the way of the peace of hanging out with and spending time listening to Jesus. In addition, she allowed her cooking and cleaning to become a source of bitterness and resentment between her and her sister. See, Martha is getting all heated, thinking this isn't fair. I'm doing the cooking, I'm doing the cleaning, I'm making this night nice so that we can have a good time with Jesus, and Mary isn't helping at all. Martha is using her gifts to try and connect with Jesus, but it's funny, her strength, her cooking and hospitality, actually become a distraction. The very festivities planned to celebrate connecting with Jesus get in the way of her connecting with Jesus. A lot of us do the same thing with Christmas. See, we celebrate because of Jesus, but we leave him out of the celebration. One of the places I've always wanted to go is New York City. It's got such a rich history and such a big part of culture. It's a cool environment. I've always loved New York City, but I've never gotten to go. And when I got engaged last year, the girls in Lucy's family all took a trip, and guess where they went? New York City. And guess who didn't get to go? Me. Now, in reality, I understand why. It was a girls' trip. They were celebrating Lucy getting engaged. But it felt a little backwards, especially being a place I wanted to go so bad that I was being celebrated but wasn't allowed to be a part of the celebration. And yet, we do this so often with Christmas, where we get swept up in the festivities, with spending time with our loved ones, with opening up presents, with eating meals, with playing games, with singing Christmas music, that we miss out on spending time connecting with Jesus. I want to ask you guys a pressing question. How many of you have ever once in your life spent time one-on-one with Jesus on his birthday? If I ask myself that same question, I honestly don't know if I've ever done it. I've probably prayed for a couple minutes or taken some time to thank Jesus for what he's done, but I don't know that I've ever intentionally set aside time to spend time with Jesus on his birthday. And that seems backwards. That seems like I've gotten distracted. And how do we think Jesus responds to these distractions? How do we think that he feels about them? Well, let's keep reading. Same story. Verses 41 and 42 says, "Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." How many of you have ever been getting ready for a holiday and your mom gets mad at you, or your dad gets mad at you, or you get mad at your sister? One thing or another, you guys are getting ready for a celebration, and somehow a fight breaks out. For me, it felt like every Sunday growing up, as we were getting ready for church, somebody would always get mad at somebody else. Whether it was my sister at me, or my mom at my dad, or my dad at my sister, somebody would always end up arguing. We were running late, and then somebody spilled something on their clothes, and then somebody forgot their Bible, and we spend the 10-minute car ride into church all ticked off at each other with bad attitudes, and then we get out and we worship Jesus. Now, that certainly wasn't an every Sunday occurrence thing, but I feel like for a lot of us it happens more times than we'd really like to admit. We get so distracted by these other things that we forget the point of it all. And Martha allowed her one thing to become her cleaning and her cooking and her preparations, instead of the one thing that Jesus offers and that Jesus is talking about. And this is why the story is so relevant to us still today, and especially this week as we head into Christmas. Jesus came down to earth for one reason. In Isaiah 7:14, 600 years before Jesus is ever born, Isaiah prophesies about his birth and says, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and she shall name him Emmanuel." Does anybody know what that name means? Emmanuel? It means God with us. In other words, God wanted a relationship so badly that he became flesh and came and was born as a human and dwelt among us on earth. He wants to be with us. Emmanuel, God with us. That's the reason we celebrate. Yet, ironically, so many of us spend time doing what Mary and Martha did. And we invite Jesus into our lives, and some of us connect with him and take time to talk, and others, some of us, allow things to distract us. Even if we have good intentions to connect with him, allow our distractions to get in the way of him. And I want to ask you guys, as we go into Christmas this week, are you spending time connecting with Jesus? See, one thing I loved about my grandpa, as I close, one thing I loved about my grandpa while he was alive was how he was so intentional about putting Jesus first. The man had an ability like none other to make every conversation end up being about Jesus. And one thing we would do every Christmas is all the cousins were drooling in anticipation for their presents and trying to open up the next, dinosaur or PlayStation, or for the girls, like Polly Pockets. I don't know what little girls like. We would all be drooling in anticipation, and my grandpa would sit us down before opening presents, and he would read us the Christmas story. And I'm not talking about just glance through it real quick as a formality. I mean, he would really read and analyze and annotate the story for us. And then he would assign each of his grandkids a piece of the nativity set to put on the nativity when it was time, when that character was being talked about. And as a little kid, it drove me nuts because I was just focused on the presents. But the older I got, the more I began to appreciate that he would do this, because whether we wanted to or not, it forced us to slow down and remember why we were celebrating. This Christmas, I've got a challenge for you. Even if it's just 20 minutes, I want you to carve out some intentional time to spend one-on-one with Jesus on his birthday. And remember the reason for the season. God with us. Amen.